Over the past few years, Disney's Animal Kingdom has been in a bit of a weird spot. The park originally opened in 1998 as a half-park, half-nature reservation experience. You could go on traditional Disney park ride offerings and right after go on a recreation of a safari. The park had always had a running theme of how humans and nature can coexist, and while the theme got a bit muddied in a few parts overall, the park had probably the best and most cohesive overarching theme of any American Disney park. Fast forward a few years of the park's operation into the late 2010s, when Pandora: The World of Avatar opened to ridiculously high acclaim. Personally, it's my favorite theme land of any Disney park, maybe tied with Galaxy's Edge. Though, many people rightfully pointed out, along with many other recent expansions to the Disney parks, they've been really reliant on pre-established intellectual properties. While I don't think this is an inherent issue when it comes down to the fact that most casual parkgoers plan trips in mind of seeing their favorite characters and stories represented, I do think it becomes a little bit of an issue when looking through the lens of sustained popularity. After all, it's easier to retheme one ride versus retheming an entire themed land once the theme becomes less popular. And would you look at that, we found ourselves with the main focus of the video, Dinoland U.S.A. This weird hodgepodge of carnival rides themed around cartoon dinosaurs, while also being home to a ride that's clearly trying to match a similar aesthetic to Jurassic Park. This land has been through the ringer. Now don't get me wrong, I love the main headliner attraction, Dinosaur. But you gotta admit that this is a bit of a weird ride. It originally opened as Countdown to Extinction, but the name was later changed to its current name to tie into the weird early 2000s Disney film of the same name. But in recent years, Disney has since demolished much of Dinoland, and they've announced a few concepts for what might replace the area in the future. Originally, they announced a Moana-themed land, which would be the main bulk of the area, with a Zootopia-themed ride taking the place of Dinosaur. Now, I shouldn't have to explain my thoughts on Zootopia at this point, but I'll try my best to discuss this in an unbiased and objective way in this video. As for Moana, I actually think Moana fits Animal Kingdom decently enough. Again, I brought up how the original theme for the park that's been mostly maintained has been the theme of how humans and nature can coexist, and Moana at its core is about a human restoring nature. But the plan seemed to shift in 2023, when it was announced that yet another idea had been pitched, that of a Latin American themed land with an Encanto section and Indiana Jones replacing Dinosaur. Now, the reasoning was simple. Indiana Jones 5 was releasing, so Disney was hoping that they could have a huge hit to justify making the ride. Now again, this isn't a film that I think highly of at all, but I am a fan of the rest of the franchise. I haven't seen Encanto, so I can't speak on if that theme would be fitting or not, but allow me to break down why I think Indiana Jones fits Animal Kingdom, while Zootopia doesn't. So, to start, let's begin with what makes a theme park a theme park. The theme. It's the theme. The theme makes the theme park. Aesthetics play a huge part in separating a Disney park from their competitors. They establish the context for each attraction and the story they tell. Everything from an alien outpost helping sell the illusion that you're about to be roped into a smuggling mission on the other side of the galaxy, to a creepy mansion in the outskirts of New Orleans. It's a very understated but extremely important part of theme park design. Now, while I don't think this is the end-all be-all for if a theme can work in a park, but it is something worth noting. The overall visual aesthetic of Zootopia doesn't fit Animal Kingdom at all. The park is themed around vague jungle aesthetics, something that's easy to blend into different worlds from their films. That's why Pandora, in spite of being from a science fiction action blockbuster, works so well alongside areas like Discovery Island or Africa. If we look at the Disneyland Indiana Jones ride in California, the ride entrance is a jungle-themed land, Adventureland to be specific, and the queue goes through a facade designed to look like an ancient Indian temple. We can look at the concept art for the Florida version to see that the theme would be some kind of Mesoamerican temple, with some kind of Aztec or Mayan vibe. This alone fits the aesthetic of the park, where long-lost ruins are scattered all over in every corner of the park. Along with this, Indiana Jones fits very well into the area themed around Latin America. Hell, the overhated fourth film has Indy going on an adventure in Latin America anyways. Meanwhile, Zootopia has the aesthetic of, well, modern society. Characters use cell phones, ride in monorails, live in a modern city with everything from organized crime to civil rights protests. This leads me into probably the biggest point in favor of Indiana Jones fitting better than Zootopia, the stories of each franchise. Is Indiana Jones about animals? No. And for many people, it seems that this is enough to disqualify the property existing in Animal Kingdom altogether. Indiana Jones is a franchise about history, culture, protecting the natural order, and mythology. Compare this to Zootopia, a story about a bunny trying to become a cop and blackmailing a petty crook to be used as his sidekick. Literally the only thing that can link Zootopia to the theme of Animal Kingdom is the fact that the characters are, well, animals. But by this logic, any story including humans fits, since, for all intents and purposes, the animals in Zootopia are basically human stand-ins. At best, Zootopia fits Hollywood Studios with its theme, but Animal Kingdom would be a very inappropriate place to put this property. I've seen people try and argue that Pandora doesn't fit and Zootopia does, which shows that they saw the name and assumed it was literally a park specifically about animals and animals alone. By this logic, Magic Kingdom is literally a kingdom and shouldn't have any lands outside of Fantasyland. Epcot is an actual experimental prototype community of tomorrow and should straight up have residential space. And Hollywood Studios should be a Hollywood studio instead of a park. The point of Avatar is that this alien species has a physical connection to other life forms on the planet, and it's balls deep in a very environmentalist message. That belongs in Animal Kingdom. And with some tweaking, Indiana Jones could fit as well. Just as Avatar has an environmental message condemning greedy corporations for unethical practices of forcing indigenous people from their homes to extract resources and take over their home, while those indigenous people are trying to make an effort to fight back, Indiana Jones has a few themes going for it already. Lost cultures being preserved is a huge part of the franchise. Everything from the Lost Ark to the Cross of Coronado. Another running theme is that of rival archaeologists treating their findings as prizes to be won, not as a catalyst for a huge life-changing lesson. They're almost never respectful to the cultures they're clearly trying to profit from, and in one film where Indy is specifically driven by fortune and glory, he learns at the end that he was wrong in prioritizing that over real people who needed help. Each of the villains received gruesome deaths for their defiling of important relics, a cautionary tale for the dangers of becoming too possessive and obsessed with personal wealth. Oh, and funny enough, Temple of Doom specifically has the MacGuffins as Shankara stones, relics believed to bring fertility to the land. Once the villainous Thuggee cult stole one of the stones from Mayapur, the village fell into an environmental crisis, on top of the kidnapping of their children. Once the stone was returned, Marhan specifically said,
"We know you are coming back when life returned to our village. Now you can see the magic of the rock."
So there is a precedent for stories with environmental messages in Indiana Jones, even if it's thin. That being said, the character of Indiana Jones was designed in mind of being flexible enough to be put in various different situations and having the story work with him. You can tell a story about him getting lost in India, a story about him going on an adventure with his dad and finding the Holy Grail, a story about him battling a Nazi cyborg. Seriously, if these are stories that can be told, you can easily tell a story about a culture with a connection to nature, with some villain who wants to exploit a mysterious relic that has a connection between the culture and nature, and Indiana Jones goes on a quest to right the wrongdoings. Boom. There. I just wrote a story that fits Animal Kingdom, that ties Indiana Jones into the overall theme of the park, and one that could easily fit the aesthetic. The only way you can make Zootopia fit any of that would be through outright retconning this mass urban sprawl as some kind of environment where the citizens and nature live in harmony in some way, or that they have some kind of connection with the land. But that wouldn't really be consistent with the story of Zootopia whatsoever. The fundamental premise of Zootopia is that these animals are basically humans who live in human housing and use human technology and do things that humans do. And in spite of the message of the film being royally botched, as I've discussed in a previous video, the attempted message is about how absurd racism is. No messages of protecting nature, no messages of preserving cultures, no messages of undoing destruction of nature, nothing. It's as distant from the theme of Animal Kingdom as anything could be, and frankly, I'm tired of people misunderstanding this.
That's it right there. Every time I bring up a fucking subject, you know all about it!
I don't know all about this.
You fucking know all about this shit!
That's it for today's video. If you liked it, give it a like and hit the subscribe button. Comment down below and share your thoughts on this video. Join my Patreon page for early access to my videos and join my Discord server. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.